years.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Gregg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm working to restore history one piece at a time. Tonight we're going to be doing part 8 of the 1929 Victor R32 TRF radio. And in part 8 I will be finishing up the final cleaning, repair, and reassembly of the TRF radio section of this radio. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we're ready to take a look at the volume pot here. And it's really stiff. I can turn it, but just barely, so I want to get this thing loose. Probably open it up and at least spray something in there, whether it's deoxit or whatever, but I got to get it working smoother. I believe that this is a wire wound potentiometer. So let me see if I can get this thing off. I think I have a little crescent wrench, yeah, right here on my vise. That should work. So let's see if we can get this thing off of here. That wasn't too bad. I'm trying to see if we can do this without actually having to desolder the wires. There we go. And there we go. So I've got you guys in the camera. Yep, we do. Okay. Let's see if I can reposition this. Alright, we're going to see if we can get this open. I've got 3 metal tabs that I need to bend up to open it up. I get nervous when I'm working with this stuff that's, you know, getting close, approaching 100 years old, so I get concerned about metal fatigue and things such as that I'm going to open these things up and they're going to just snap off. Jaw pieces. Not on purpose, obviously. There we go. Let's see if we can get these open enough that I can get that out, but maybe not stress the pieces. Let's see if I got another pair of pliers here. Finish pulling these on up. I learned something from Larry at Back to the Future radios as far as putting these back. He said push them back with wood seems to work pretty good and they have less likely to break them off, so that's probably what I'll do. So let's see if we can get this out of here. Okay, so it's a 2-part assembly, obviously, and I'm not sure if you can see what we got going on in here. Let's see if I got something to point this out with. Alright, so I don't have my Z1, doesn't get real close, but hopefully you can see this. We've got, looks like a big hunk of carbon. It's not like a carbon trace, it's actually carbon. It looks like it's a good 3/16 of an inch thick. Now there was a little washer there, you can see it on my finger, that was just sitting on there, so I'm assuming that that little washer probably goes on this. Let me get this where you can see it, hopefully. Well, if you can get the angle just right. Let me see if I can get this light better here. There's a little tip of metal sticking down right here, and I believe that this little washer goes on that. It's supposed to be the contact on the carbon port, the carbon portion, I'm pretty sure. Now I don't know that deoxit's going to do much for cleaning this stuff. We have a contact terminal here that these contacts ride on right here. You can see that. And then we've got a metal washer here that rides on the carbon. We look on the opposite side of this, we've basically got the same situation here. So that's the metal portion with the tip on it. Here's the metal portion with the tip, and there's the washer. on that piece of carbon. You can see it's the same thickness. So there's not really much going on in here. I think what I'll do is take a swab and just swab those with alcohol in there and clean it that way. Little carbon trace, the carbon blocks are held in place with screws. Probably the same screws like I have on this one right here. Actually, right here. I'll hold it like this. Screws right here, I think, are what are coming right here and holding the carbon in, which we don't want to take loose. So we get a little alcohol and a swab, which I have right here. Get some alcohol and we will clean that out, and we will see if I can get some lubricant down around the shaft to loosen it up a little bit. I just put some alcohol on there, 91%, and I'm just going to clean this carbon block thoroughly, as well as the inside of the can, because there's a little bit of, as you can see, there's a little bit of carbon dust just built up in there. Do the opposite side now and do it again with the clean side of my cotton swab. I'll do this inside wiper first, like that. Okay, and while that one's drying, I am going to go ahead and do this one. And we'll get a clean swab. We'll do it again. Nothing's broken in here, so that's a good thing. I just got to get the little washer back on this one here, the little contact. Okay, so what I've done is shooting WD-40 in there and kept working it and kept working it. I kept it vertical, and I finally got it so that it's actually moving pretty decent now. I went ahead and I re-cleaned everything up completely with alcohol and air dried it. So now I need to get this little contact back on here, and it's just a little triangular tab that's sticking up, and this has not got a slot. This is a little round hole. Unfortunately, I need to somehow get that to stick on that, and I need to do it in such a way that it's not putting much on it to hold it, because I don't want whatever I put on there to melt out and get in there. And unfortunately, the thickest thing that I've got, which probably is not a good solution because it's kind of an insulator, is going to be this solder flux. But all it's going to take is a little teeny piece. So if I can put one little teeny piece on that thing, it might stay in there and be fine. Otherwise, I don't think I can get it in there, because I don't think I'm going to get it lined directly up where it needs to be, where I hit it. And so that's a problem. So I'm going to try this, and hopefully it works. But I'm just going to take a little teeny piece of flux. You probably can't even see it on my screwdriver, it's so tiny. And I got to get this little washer flipped around so that it's the side down that was down originally. So I got to get this piece of flux so that it will stick on the tab and hold it long enough for me to get it inside of that housing. My fingers are so fat, I'm going to have to get a smaller pair of pliers. Get my magnifier so I can see what I'm doing here. It's stuck on there, but I don't know how well it's stuck on there. That's the problem. Yeah, I don't know that that's going to stay. I think that's going to fall off of there. Alright, plan B. We got to come up with a plan B. Plan A didn't work. I'll be back. Okay, here's plan B. Don't know if it's going to work or not. Don't know if you can see this or not. But this part is triangular shaped. So, and they punched it out of this piece. So there's a triangular shaped hole on the back side of that. So what I did was I found this very tiny wire and I bent it and squeezed it like a V, like that. You can see that, I don't know if you can or not. And then I crammed it down in the hole like that, and I snipped it off flush with the tippy top of that nub. Now, the plan now is, all that is to give me a little bit of, tiny bit of support. And what I'm planning on doing is putting just a little drip of Elmer's glue, just a little tiny drip, on that little V-shaped piece of wire sticking up. That way it won't, or should not, affect the metal to metal contact between the contact and obviously this metal tab. I don't want to put insulation between that contact and this metal tab. I'm having to work under my magnifying light, just so you guys know. So let me drop a glue on there and try and get that contact on there and see if we can get this, if it's going to work or not. Alright, we're on to plan C. The Elmer's wouldn't cut it. So I'm going to try this Loctite super glue. Put a little dab of that on there and see if that will hold it on the little wires. Give that a shot. Well, plan C worked. There's the little washer sitting on there. There's that little tiny piece of V-shaped wire right there. I don't think that's going to fall out. I think enough of the super glue got between the actual V section wire and the hole in the bracket that it's not going to go anywhere once this thing is inserted. And I didn't get any on the metal of the contact or the plate. So now all I got to do is try and get this thing put back together again without it falling apart. And that'll be the next step here. We can see if we can get this put back in here now. Not everything falling apart. And I'm pretty sure we have to line up all the terminals. See if we can get this inserted without bumping anything. I think I'm in. See if we can mash this. There's that one down. That one's down. That one's down. I think that was all there was. I don't think there was one over here. I think we're in. Alright. So I got that all together. Went and found me a knob I could stick on here. This isn't the knob from this. I believe this is actually a knob from my other Atwater Kent. But I got it on there so it's easier for me to turn the knob. I'm going to angle you up to see the meter as I run it through its paces. Now right now I'm on the front section, the section of the pot closest to the front plate there that it mounts to. There's two sections, the front section and the rear section. This is the front section. So we start out 1.2 ohms and gradually come up. Now I need to slow down how fast I'm rotating this. And actually I should be checking this on an analog meter. Obviously I hit one little spot right there. It was dead for a split second. Right there. But after that it's going up nicely. There's 1000 ohms there. We keep going, and we keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I think we're about done right there. Alright, so 4,576 ohms. That's on the front section. Now let's go to the back section. I think we're on there. Alright, so it's going to start at 11.5 ohms. About 500 ohms there. Getting a little bit of a dead spot right there. Just a split second there. And then we keep going on up. Some 100, 800, 900, 1000, 1200, 16, 18, 2000, 24, 25, 35, 37, 38, 39, 46, 52, 58, 59, and then I think that's about it. 59, 54. So both sections appear to be working fine. Again, a little dead spot, but if I was looking at an analog meter instead of this digital meter, you probably wouldn't even see that. So I'm happy with this. I think that it's going to be fine. Okay, so now we're going to turn our attention to the Phono radio switch, which in this particular radio is kind of irrelevant because it doesn't have a phonograph. But I want the switch to work just the same, and as it turns out, this one actually had a clip that was easy enough to remove that I got it out. So I can actually, on this one, go ahead and remove the section of switch here and clean it up and lubricate it. Right here. Let's clean this up a little bit. Clean that up a little bit. Alright, I buffed it up a little bit on the buffer. I'll smear a little of my synthetic super lube on here. Lubricate it up good. Let's see if we can get that shoved in there. And there we go. We get it in far enough that we can get our clip in there, which it should be far enough. Alright, let's see if I can get the clip in without losing it. Might get lucky. And there it goes, went right in. And there we go. By the way, I did have one of my viewers, Paul, he's the master, sent me a message telling me that there was a different schematic available and where I could find it, and I went and found it, and sure enough. So I don't have to change that. So we're good. So the other thing I wanted to show you guys, which was interesting, you guys saw me check the hum control right here. Interesting about the hum control, remember it didn't change. Well, the reason it didn't change is because I missed the center terminal. There's a center terminal here, but it's pointing straight down. There's not a wire on it. There never has been a wire on it. When we look at the schematic here in a minute, the schematic shows that there is a wire that runs from there to the big resistor. And I'll show it to you on the schematic. It's never had anything in it. There's not any solder or anything on it. I went back and I looked at one of these that Jim Linden had worked on, and his didn't have any wire on his either. So I'm kind of interested. Right now it's just acting like a 26 ohm resistor sitting there. But I'm thinking if I get this thing working, I'm probably going to put a wire on there and just see what happens. But yeah, that's why it wasn't varying. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that. So one of the things that I did earlier was I had to remove this piece of plastic, which is basically the dial indicator. If you can see that, I don't know if you can see that hole in there. I don't know. If I turn that, maybe you might be able to see it. Basically, this is the actual dial. I haven't cleaned it up yet, but this is what it looks like. And the way this should work is you would see this light. The light should illuminate this to an extent, and then the light should come through that brighter so that you could see it. As you can see there, you really can't see nothing through that. Now granted, I don't have it up against the light. Let me see if I can get a better light on this. Kind of give you a demonstration. Alright. So if you guys can see that, you can see it slightly. This looks like, I can't tell it's yellowed or if it was some sort of a tint on there at some point in time. But me personally, I want to see it better than what I see here. So I'm going to make a change on this, and it's an executive decision on my part, be it period correct or not. I went and I bought some tint. Big old roll of tint. I'm going to cut a little piece of this to fit my part. But I'm hoping that it'll be just dark enough that by the time I get it on there, it'll make the indicator a little more visible behind the actual dial bezel. So I'm going to cut a piece of this and see if I can get it on there and trimmed, and then I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I got the tint on there. I think it looks pretty decent. It is not very dark, but then again I didn't want it super dark because what was on there wasn't super dark, but I could just tell it had something on there that over the years had gone bad, I think. Also, I figured out that when this is actually on the radio, this is in front of that, not in back of it, which is fine. It'll actually make it more, you know, scale detailed looking once it's on there. So I'm going to be good with that. I think that's going to be fine. Now I just got to get this thing back on there, back the way it was, straight up and down, and not break these tabs off when I tighten them back down. And that's going to be the delicate part. I'm afraid I'm going to break those. I'm going to see if I can find my little wire pliers here and see if I can get that squished. Alright, I'm going to take these pliers here and see if I can get this thing back the way it was, enough to keep that from coming out. I think that one's good. This is the one that bothers me. Got it. I think it's on there good. It's not going to go anywhere. Perfect. Alright, good. Okay, so I've got the front all buttoned back up. Have all the knobs on it. Everything's working good. And I think that what we're getting ready to do is I went ahead and coated everything with the T9 bow shield in here, so everything's good to go there. What I've got left is this grommet that was on here was rotten. And here it is. As you can see, very, very brittle, rotten, separated. Luckily I have one that's about the right size. And there it is next to the old one. I think the inside of it's the right diameter. The outside's a little big, but I think it'll squish in there. But here's what I need to do. How am I going to get it on the cable, you ask? Since the end is still on the cable, and I'm not intending on taking the end off. Well, I'll show you. So what you do is you take your grommet and a nice sharp razor knife, and all I'm going to do is cut this one side right in half, straight cut, like that. So now we're split. Now what I do is I go around my wire, my harness, and I'll put a dab of super glue in there and push it and hold it for about 30 seconds. And that will glue the rubber back together again. It actually worked quite well. Alright, so I'm getting ready to do this. We don't have to do it way down the end because this grommet is big enough of this wire I can slide it down once I glue it. So I'm going to take my super glue and I'm just going to put a little dab on it. Don't take much. Like that. You can see the shiny, there it is. And I'm just going to push this together just like that, and we'll hold it for like 30 seconds. And then I'll bring you back. Okay, so it's been about 45 seconds. And there it is. Looks like it's all one piece, because it is all one piece now that it's glued back. And all we have to do is go ahead and run it down to where it needs to be. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I've got this silicone spray. I'm going to spray a little silicone spray just in the rubber groove so that it makes it easier to slide it down over that piece of chassis right there. Just like that. And she's in. And then when the other piece goes down on top of that, that'll finish sealing it off with the grommet. This also works good for O-ring. So like if you have an O-ring that's too long and you measure it out, you can just cut it, put the dab of super glue on there, and it will put it together really good. So like some of these old radios and old tape recorders use like O-ring type belts, and if you can't get the right one but you can get the right diameter one and it's too long, then you can just cut it, shorten it, cut the piece out, shorten it, and super glue it back together again. So alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is take this out of my chassis holder, and we're going to go ahead and put the top on it just so that I have it all in one piece. Obviously we're going to be doing some final adjustment on this. Assuming the radio works, I'll have to adjust a few of the parts on here. We'll be adjusting these screws here for fine-tuning, as well as I've got some neutralization screws for each of the tuning condensers. So let me get the top on here. Okay, so we're getting ready to test the tubes, the 26 tubes and the 27 tube that I had. I got some from Ron C. We're going to test them all. First, I've got this all set up for the 26 tube right now. Our settings are 3, 1, 19, 18, 1, 1, and we're going to be depressing B for it. But first thing I got to do is get my line set up here. This is the power coming in, and then this is one of the 26 tubes I got from Ron C. It's more the globe style, which is kind of cool, and I've cleaned the legs up on it. So let's see if we can get this in there. There we go, we're in. We'll let that warm up a little bit. We'll go through the shorts. This is the shorts indicator right here. If that comes on, that's going to be indicating the short. First thing we're going to do is check for filament. And it's lit, so that's good. It means filament's good. Now we'll just go through the rest of these. If it flashes and goes out, that's fine. If it comes on and stays, that's not fine. So look okay there. Go back to B. And now we're going to read the tube quality. And it's in the good. Not fantastically good, but it's not dropping either. So we'll consider that one good. Alright, let's get the next one. I'm going to go ahead and set that one. I've got the actual radio section right to me to the right here, so I can literally take these. So here's our next 26 tube. Stick that one in there. Check give it a minute. I get too far ahead of myself. I want to make sure that it's heated up a little bit. Alright, so let's check the filament. It's glowing like it should. Go through the rest of these. C, D, E, F, G, H, J. Go back to B because that's what we want depressed. And we'll read the meter. Yeah, that's a much better tube there. So let's go to the next tube. Get that one in there. Give it a second to warm up. Check the filament. It's glowing, so that's good. B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J. Back to B. Check our meter. And that one's pretty good. That's up at 70. So here's the next 26. Okay, let's go check the filament. Filament's good. C, D, E, F, G, H, J. Go back to B. Check the meter. And that one's probably the best one yet. Alright, this is the last 26 tube for the radio section here. So let's go ahead and get that one in. Give it a second to warm up. And then we'll go check the filament. Filament's good. C, D, E, F, G, H, J. Reading the meter. Yeah. Okay. There was, I think, one more 26 tube that I got from Ron. Let's try it and see if it tests better or not. So this is the other 326. Alright. Let that one warm up. Check the filament. Looks good. B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J. Depress B and read the meter. That one is a little better, so that's the one we're going to use. That one's running about 65, so that's good. Now I got to test my 27 tube. I'll set up and be right back. Okay, so I've got this set up for the 27, which it's the 5 and it's that one right there. I just didn't have it twisted right. Alright, there we go. Let that one heat up. This one you can actually, I don't know if you can see it, but you can actually see the glow in that tube. Alright, so let's check our filament. It's good. B, C, D, E, F, G, J. I believe this one said it used the B as well. So press B and adjust my line just a hair on this. There we go. And check the tube. Good. Alright, so the 27 tube is really good. Alright. Okay, so here it is. And there, that's why I said I was sitting next to it. So what I did was I put the tubes from strongest to weakest for the 26. So that's the 26, 26, 26, 26. That's the 27, and then that's the final 26. Now, when I look at the circuit, I'll determine which one is actually first in the circuit, because I'll probably want the strongest one first in the circuit. I don't know that this one's first in the circuit. This might be the one that's first in the circuit, but I'll get that figured out. But for now, I'm going to just leave this as it is. I'll clean the connector up a little bit, but for right now I'm going to just cover this up and leave it as it is and consider this complete for the moment. And then we'll move on over to the amplifier circuit, because I actually did have a couple of days of good weather and I did get my cans painted. So I got to get the amplifier chassis piece cleaned up and painted, and then I can start putting that together. But that'll be the next part. So from Greg at Gregg's Vintage Workshop, I think we're going to conclude this part 8 of the 1929 Victor R32. I thank you for watching Gregg's Vintage Workshop.